strongest matchup. And Elfi, on the other hand, he's one of the strongest PvP players, like maybe one of the strongest in Europe for sure. So I think this will be really interesting.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this in our group predictions yesterday for stage 3 at least. That Elfi is one of those players that we both kind of agreed had a very interesting chance to get through because his PvP was so good. And if I recall, I do believe he had a solid amount of PvP in that group, so not surprising to see him here. And here he is in the bottom right as the red Protoss player from Team Ents. It is Elfi.
Yeah, very strong PvPer. So I didn't see any of his PvPs like lately, but I know that he's really strong. So it will be very interesting to see what he's going to do here. And to the top left position, we have one of our Dreamhack winners. Actually, we have My Insanity's Stardust.
Yeah, he won that Dreamhack. My first live casted event was.
Oh right, yeah, it was.
Dreamhack Summer.
Yeah.
He's a very, very good player. It's been kind of interesting to see him come up here and play against some of the other, I guess the other Korean talent. But he's made it into the round of 16 once again. Of course, guys, we'll be bringing you through the round of 16 alongside the main Dreamhack production, and then the round of 8 and onwards will be all on the main show. So we've got a lot of great games coming today, and PvP. So I don't know, how do you feel about this match? I really haven't seen too much of Stardust PvP lately, and while I haven't seen much of Elfi's, I know, and his reputation certainly shows in this him being here, that he is good at PvP.
Yeah, the thing with Stardust is that he thinks that the matchup is a bit random, and I kind of want to agree with him.
Yeah.
It's very build order focused, and it's kind of hard to scout and adapt in this matchup, at least in the early stages. So if one goes Stargate, the other one goes DTs, and you don't scout it in time and don't get that Oracle out, then you're kind of screwed. And yeah, it's kind of random, but I think it will be kind of an even match, actually, because Stardust is one of the strongest players that are living in Europe at the moment. We can see him on ladder doing really well all the time on the European ladder, and Elfi, as we said before, one of the strongest PvP players in Europe. So I think it will be really even.
Yeah, I kind of like that Elfi's going out for a scout. He wants to, this is such an important match. I think he really wants to make sure he sees everything that goes on, and Probe gets into a bit of a gang fight there, does escape. And you do make a good point. Stardust is, I think he's staying at the My Insanity team house. I believe they have one.
Yeah.
I think it's in Switzerland, right, where the team is based out of?
Yeah, it is actually, and they're practicing a lot over there, like really, and they seem to be sharing build orders a lot. I talk a lot to Starnan, who's there at the moment, and they seem to have a really good practice schedule, and Stardust is doing really well over there. He's streaming some from there too, actually, doing well at the stream. So
yeah, he's had good numbers. Yeah, he's
practicing really hard, this guy. So not to be underestimated, and just look at how well he's been doing, and he didn't even practice that much Heart of the Swarm as of yet. So I think that this is one of the players that will stay in the scene for a long time.
Yeah. Now we're seeing a bit more development here in the build orders. As the scouting probe leaves Elfi's base, he's actually going for a straight-up fast 3 gateway play. So this could be just a really heavy amount of aggression, and we're actually seeing the same setup. We're seeing the same setup from Stardust. So this is an interesting layout between both of these players. They're kind of doing the same thing, and I wanted to draw a comparison to another European Protoss player that likes to do the 3-gate in the PvP, and that's Grubby. But since both players are doing it, there's not really much interaction between builds. It's going to come down to who macros better and who micros better.
Yeah, both of them are chrono boosting out this warp tech, and they want to go for it. So I think that probably it's going to come down to the defender's advantage. One of them is going to be the one who's pushing out, and the other one will be able to defend. You will also have those probe to defend with if needed, and
he gets
the ramp can be really important here. We see that Elfi is coming out trying to make that pylon, and this will probably make Stardust not want to attack here. Elfi moving out with a few more stalkers, and yeah, I think that Stardust will defend here. And we also see a robo coming up behind this from Elfi, so he knows that I have to do something else. I can't stay on this forever.
Yeah, he's getting really aggressive here, using the Time Warp as well, just trying to focus down the opposing Stalkers, microing back the weak one, and now we do have a Stalker lead for Elfi, but like you said, the Defender's advantage coming into play. More Stalkers warped in, though, really helps to negate that, and Elfi suddenly opening up with a huge lead. He's going to force the Photon Overcharge, and, you know, if this was Wings of Liberty, man, if there's no Photon Overcharge, he almost just kills him right there.
Photon Overcharge is killing the game, but some sick micro there from Elfi actually with the Stalkers. I don't think that he should overextend here, but look at the supply. He is actually up in supply. They have the same worker count, so if he just waits out for that Photon Overcharge to there are still some more seconds on it, and then he can push in again with the Stalkers, and I think that he might be able to do a lot here. Some probes actually coming up off the mineral line for Stardust. He knows that he's in trouble and that he has to defend this.
Yeah, I like the decision to bring a couple of probes. Elfi wants to go all the way back home. A little bit surprising. He's whipped in some Stalkers at home as well as this Observer. Wants to be careful, of course, you know, in case one of these guys threw out something like a hidden Dark Shrine or have a proxy pylon they can do some harass with. And I wanted to agree with you and say that Elfi, with that supply lead, he probably could have just kept warping in units and might have been able to break Stardust, but he really doesn't want to take that risk of being overwhelmed or being killed off with the counterattacks.
Yeah. We see that both of them now has that robo out. Let's see, we see an observer coming out from Stardust. Does Elfi have an observer? Yeah, so Elfi already has the observer, has an immortal on the way. So Elfi is kind of in the lead with immortals, but he's not going to be able to do a lot with that because of the defender's advantage. The immortals will of course be closer to Stardust base, so it will be hard for Elfi to attack there. But Stardust took his expansion a little bit sooner than Elfi, so small victory there for him.
Yeah, it's about, I mean, he'll have the Nexus early enough that he can squeeze out maybe 2 or so extra probes if he immediately goes into probe production. But you do have a good point. The Immortals, a little bit slower. You obviously can't warp those in at any pylon, so it does create this situation where it's a little bit more, I think it's a bit stronger to go for the 2 base and just kind of defend. But we do have a bit of deviation now coming up here. The Robotics Bay is coming in for Elfi, and just a Forge for Stardust, so he has not yet decided to commit to anything like Colossus.
Yeah, and Elfi also saved up all of that Chrono Boost, so I'm wondering if he's going to use it for his Robo to get those Colossus out soon, or if it's just a mistake. There is some Chrono Boost going down, and yeah, very interesting to see if he's gonna try to get some Colossus push out here very fast and try to get to Stardust before he has those Colossus outs.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird dynamic too, because there's that you know, that always that kill switch for the Colossus play being the Tempest, which really just hard counters Colossus so ridiculously hard. It causes a lot of scouting to be necessary, but I guess that's not going to even be part of Stardust's plan. He is going to get a Robotics Bay of his own, but he will be slightly behind in the Colossus count because Elfi is immediately producing one.
Yeah, but we should also remember that Elfi doesn't have a Forge, so he will have no upgrades for quite some time. But if we look in Stardust base, he actually has a Forge going on, upgrading that level 1 weapons, so he will be ahead in the upgrades.
Yeah, that'll help the Colossi a lot, especially with that splash damage being spread out against so many of Stardust's units and whatnot. So I do like that Forge play. I'm kind of wondering when we'll see it. More gateways are being added for Elfi. I think this is pretty standard to do since they're going to start banking a little bit more resources with the second base now being saturated. But Elfi still hasn't taken the gas that is natural, which kind of has me thinking that he wants to just pump out a lot of units, and he might go for a push here with his Colossus. I don't know though. He hasn't. Yeah,
he's adding on gateways. He's adding on gateways, so I think that you might be right. But yeah, the range is really weird here. Elfi's moving out. He is building pylons all over the map, so he really wants to make this work. He wants to get an attack here, and he might get there just in time, right before that +1 finishes for Stardust. But I think that very soon that when Stardust has that upgrade advantage, it will be hard for Elfi to pull this off.
Yeah, this is really weird. I feel like, I don't know if Elfi got the Colossus just to break here, but oh, really nice use of the hallucination. He's just going to engage. He doesn't have the Observer to spot the hallucination, so that Colossus is still potentially be targeted, and Elfi's just trying to bowl him over here. Stardust with a nice supply lead is pushing this army back, and I feel like Elfi didn't realize that he forgot Colossus range, because that would have helped him so much more, I think. And he's continuing to press up here, still down on supply, but he's actually shoving through this.
Yeah, wow, that hallucinated Colossus was actually genius by Stardust, and there is no way that Elfi can attack into this. Looking at the supply now, he's down to 60 supply versus at 85 of Stardust. Not in a very good position here. I think that Elfi kind of wasted this game. I was so sure that he was going to do well after that early supply lead when he did that great micro with the Stalkers, but falling back, he wasn't really on top of things, I guess. Didn't get that +1 out, and also I think that Stardust managed to kind of blind counter him.
Yeah, it was just a really nice engagement for Stardust, and now with a huge supply lead. You know, you kind of said it, the hallucinated Colossus was a genius play. The Observer wasn't in range, and just a quick, if you guys don't know, if you have an Observer, if you have detection to see that it's a hallucination, your units will automatically avoid attacking it. Like, he won't, it doesn't even count as a unit, basically, because it's, you know, it doesn't do any damage, so your units won't fight it if you have the detection. And he just did a great play by having that come out so unexpectedly, and I do feel that Stardust has a massive advantage right now. Yeah, and he also has that +1.
Yeah, that +1 is going to help Stardust so much, and Stardust knows that he's in a big lead now, so he's going to move out with those Colossus. We have Thermal Lance coming up for... Who is it that's upgrading it? We have it coming up for Stardust, but I guess he will try to attack before that, and he knows that Elfi doesn't have a lot, so I think that Stardust will be able to pull this off with this fight. 170 supply to 97, he's up 20 supply. But he's deciding to move back, it seems.
I kind of like his decision to go back. He can take a third base. He has +2 attack and Colossus range on the way. Both of these players have about 3 Colossi with their army, but the big difference here is that if that range completes, he's going to get his attacks off earlier. His Colossi will be in a better position, and he can just get more damage done with the +2 attack upgrade, and he's now at 4 Colossi. So I don't know if Elfi can break him, but this is honestly Elfi's only real chance.
Yeah, very good point there with the upgrades. 4 Colossus, and that Colossus range is going to be also important when he has that many Colossus. And also, he might have timed those upgrades up, so he might want to attack with that +2 and that Thermal Lance. But it looks like Stardust is going to take a third base, and we have an attack from Elfi.
Yeah, he's trying to press into the natural expansion here. The supply still heavily favoring Stardust. Elfi doing what he can, but those Colossi from Stardust getting in a lot of hits. The Immortals as well, destroying those Stalkers. There's the GG, and Stardust does take game number